anybody going next?
Okay, hello Huddersfield! Woo! Thank you so much for turning out tonight. I just want to apologise for being late. You peers had some problems with the trains, didn't we? And then you could... Yeah, blame Sadiq Khan in London. And then when you got to Birmingham, we couldn't get the right exit, could we? So I'm so sorry we're late, and we're so thankful you for waiting for us. Thank you so much. So I'm sorry I didn't manage to catch all of Jonathan's speech, but thank you, Jonathan, for starting up. And can I just start a round of applause to Jonathan for all his hard work trying to get Jonathan for all his hard work for trying to get as many people as possible to run for council in this country, because we have a huge problem, don't we, in this country, and I'm sure all of you agree here, where all of the corrupt political parties, and that includes Labour, the Conservatives, the Liberal Democrats, the Greens, the SNP, the whole lot of them are corrupt and in the pockets of corporations and banks. Yeah. They are controlled, and they don't represent any of us here. They don't represent you in Huddersfield. They don't, I'm going to put this really blunt, they don't give a shit about you as people. So it's high time that we started standing up for ourselves, and that's why I think what Jonathan is doing is so important, because the 15-minute city agenda, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. Some of you have got the leaflet. Please come and grab one. Please come and grab one if you haven't got one. The 15-minute city agenda is being enforced by local council. And I've just been told, I don't know if that's correct, I haven't checked, it's not definitive, that Kirklees Council is not doing it. But I can assure you that they will. They will try, because hundreds of councils around the country are signing up to what's called the UK 100, which is a list of councils that want to reach net zero. And the final date for that is 2030, and then the final date for the whole country is, they're flying away, is 2050. They want all cities to be, all towns and cities to be 15-minute neighbourhoods or 15-minute cities. So they will do it here. And this is why you have an opportunity here in Huddersfield now to take back your power and stop these people from doing this to you. Because absolutely. You can do this here in Huddersfield, you still have time. In places like Oxford, I'm not saying they haven't got time, they can still do it. The agenda is underway. It's started, they voted for it in Oxford, but you can stop them here. Don't let them breadcrumb you. Don't let people come in and try and stop you. Fight back now while you can do it. So, 15-minute cities, what are they? Somebody just come up to me and wanted to do an interview and said, yes, this gentleman here, and asked me, well, what is the 15-minute city? Because a lot of people are a bit confused, because the newspapers, the wonderful newspapers, and I know we've got media here today, are telling us that this is a wonderful thing. How wonderful that you can work on your doorstep. Well, wouldn't that be nice? I'm sure we'd all get out of our cars if we could walk to the end of the road to go to work. How wonderful is it if we could send our kids to school at the end of the road? Or if we could do all our shopping at the end of the street? Or if you worship, if you could go to your church or your place of worship or your hospital? Wouldn't that be lovely? Come on, dream on. When has that ever happened? Even in the post-war era, people had to travel in this country. This is not a reality that can happen. We all need to travel to have a life. We need to travel to go to work. How the hell are we supposed to go to work if we can't travel? So please stop coming out with this utopian nonsense. It's not going to happen. We need to travel to live and have our basic human rights. We need to be able to travel. So the freedom of movement is being shut down. And can I ask a question, everybody here? If this is so utopian, why are you fining us to do it? Why don't you build the 15-minute city before you fine us and give us fines to go out of our doorstep and go on in our cars? That's the question we need to ask. Why are you forcing us? Who can afford peers? £12.50 a day. I believe that's the charge, isn't it, in London? The ULAS, it's the same thing as the 15-minute city. The ULAS in London is being extended in, is it June? July?
Well, we're going to stop.
You're going to stop it? August? Never. But it's being extended to the M25. And the idea is that people are going to have to pay £12.50 every time they travel through that zone. We can't afford that. Normal people can't afford to travel. We are being charged to go to work. And we won't be able to go to work. None of us are going to be able to afford to go to work. They're taking away your basic right to go to work. This is what they're doing. And it is an attack on our basic rights. The right to go to school, to send your kids to school. The right to go to the hospital. The right to go to the church. It's all being taken away from you. It is an agenda to shut down your rights. That's all it is. It is bullshit. I'm sorry to put it bluntly. It is bullshit that it's about a wonderful utopian era. It's about shutting you down in your towns and cities and taking your rights away. That's really what it's about. So, if you want to learn more, have you all heard about absolute zero? Put your hand up if you've heard of the absolute zero agenda. Put your hand up. Not just net zero, absolute zero. Piers, yeah, I'm about to say, I'm sure you have. And this is why we need to be scared. I'm really worried because absolute zero is where it's going to go. It's not going to stop at a 15-minute city. It's not going to stop at you not being able to go 15 minutes out of Huddersfield. It's going to they're going to bring that cage, that digital cage, in closer and closer until you are physically stopped from travelling. This is the ultimate agenda. And if you don't believe me, I want you to read. I've got it here. You can find it on the internet. I'm going to show you. Hold on.
Yes, John, she's brilliant, mate.
So it's called Plan to Go Absolute Zero Carbon by 2050. It's a report called Absolute Zero UK Fires, in inverted commas, produced by the University of Oxford, Cambridge, Bath, Nottingham, Strathclyde and Imperial College, surprise, surprise, Imperial College London. And this was sent to the UK government in 2019. And you need to read it and be terrified, because if you're terrified, you are going to act, and you need to act here in Huddersfield. It goes as far as saying that most of the building industry in this country has to stop. No more concrete. They're saying it gives off too much carbon. The end of the building industry. It's absolutely ludicrous, honestly. They want 60% of cars, traffic, everything off the road. They want to close all the airports but 2 airports. No more. It's in there, come and read it. No more air travel. No holidays. Those of us that can even afford a holiday. I can't afford one anymore. No more holidays. Any expats that need to travel back for family, they won't be able to come in the country. It is going to be shut down altogether. Travel is going to be shut down. The building industry is going to be shut down. There's still what's left of using steel in the building industry. And for those of you that have heard the rumours about meat, yes, in that report they want to stop meat as well in this country. They want you all to go vegan or vegetarian. Now, this is an attack on your choices. You should be able to choose what you eat in a free country. Choose where you travel. Choose if you want to go on holiday. This is an attack on our rights. And you must stop them. You are going to stop them, Huddersfield, aren't you? Fantastic. And finally, we've got lots of leaflets on that. Come and grab them about 15-minute cities. It also shows on here, if you look at the plans, if you go onto Huddersfield or whatever it is, the Unitary Council here, Kirklees Council, if you look at the Treasury and the UK government website, you will see that the projections for public spending here in this country, locally and nationally, for at least the next 10 years, huge spending cuts. So please tell me, Mr. Sunak, please tell me, Huddersfield Council, where is the money coming from for 15-minute cities when you're making cuts?
Cheers, James. Take care, mate.
To you. They are lying. They don't want to spend any money. They're not planning to spend any money. Our money, let's remind ourselves about, it's not their money, our money. So they're lying. They're completely lying. And the other thing, I'm not going to go on much longer because I know, Piers, you've got a lot to talk about as well. But the other thing you must be terrified of here in Huddersfield is going cashless. Because around the world, not just in this country, loads of countries are moving to a cashless society. They are introducing central bank digital currency. And in Sweden, I spoke to somebody yesterday in Sweden, they said it's absolutely horrific there, the cashless agenda that's kicking in. So we are actually a little bit behind some countries. We've still got some hope of stopping this. But I hope you all here are not going to cashless shops and businesses. Are you all boycotting them? Yes. Tell me, what shops here are cashless in Huddersfield? Any shops that are cashless, because you must boycott them. Anyway, boycott those cashless establishments. Because, as I said, we still have time in this country. Last year, because we're living in such an economic crisis, cash is going up in circulation. They don't want you to know that, but it's on the Bank of England website. Have a look. They don't advertise that to you. They don't want you to know that there's hope and that we can fight back. It's going up because in an economic crisis, we all need to manage our money, and we need to do it with cash. You can't do it with a debit card. You can't do it with those phone apps. And that's another thing I'm going to tell you off for, by the way. Here's the teacher in me. Stop using those phone apps, any of you here, if you've got them. Get rid of them. Get them off your phone. Go to it. Absolutely. Change. I had to do this. I'm not preaching to you, I'm not moralizing, but I had to change my habits. I did this about 18 months ago. I used to use my card everywhere I go. I was in terrible habits and I wasn't thinking about what I'm doing. Now, every time I go out, I make a point to go to the cash point every day if I go out, and I use cash. And I make a point that if I haven't got cash, I'll go somewhere else. If I go into a shop and they don't take cash, I tell them that I'm unhappy. I tell the other customers and I walk out. Please do the same. Tell the shops, tell your friends, tell your neighbours, tell people here in Huddersfield to boycott cashless shops and establishments. And the other thing you need to do is to stop using those self-service tills. Stop using them. Absolutely. I know you don't mean to do this, you're not thinking about it, and we don't mean to do it when we do these things, but you are putting thousands of people out of work when you do that. That's somebody's job that machine is doing. It could be your job. Your children's future is being taken away by automation and AI. And if you read the economic forecasts and the reports, it's predicted that in the next 50 years, that up to 40 to 50% of work is going to go to AI and automation. This is your kids' future we're talking about. There is no work for them. If we don't fight back this cashless agenda, the jobs are going. The machines, it's not the machines though, but the machines on behalf of the psychopaths in power. They want more and more of our money. They've got most of it. They want even more, and they want to take your jobs. So even though you won't be able to travel to the end of the road, there won't be a job there anyway. How horrific is it what they're doing? So fight back, get cash out, use the kills with a human being. How nice is it to talk to a human being as well? We are people, we are human, we have communities. Talk to them, for God's sake, have a conversation. Explain to them why you're making them come, because you have to call them out usually, don't you, in Tesco or wherever it is you are. Tell them why you're doing it, and they will understand. It's called community and society. We want a society, we don't want a place filled with robots and machines. So that's another reason. Stop using the tills, get rid of the phone apps. And another thing, does anyone run a business here? I'm not going to pick on you, but does anyone, please, can you start paying your staff, if you can, in cash? Thank you. Pay your staff in cash. There are still some cash-friendly bank accounts. I don't know if you've managed to open one, but I don't banks that. Prejudiced Bank, and I'm not necessarily endorsing any of these banks, they're all corrupt, so it's very hard to find a bank that isn't. They're all the same, but they do cash-friendly accounts, and I don't like Co-op either because it's a bit contentious because they have all those screens in there, but they do cash-friendly bank accounts. So there are bank accounts you can use as well. And the other thing, if you're using cash points regularly, there is a big review, I think it's still underway, into the use of cash points and which ones they want to close down. And surprise, surprise, those that are being used the most are obviously not the ones they're going to close down. Use your cash points so that they stay open, because ultimately if you don't, all the banks will close here and you will have no choice but to go online and do your banking and pay your bills. And last but not least, pay your utility bills. Pay your bills at the post office in cash. Take back the power with cash. Stop the direct debits. Get them to send you the old-fashioned, I think we used to call them, the gyros with the bill to the post office. The beauty of that is, if you can't afford these ridiculous bills at the moment, and you pay what you can afford regularly, there's not much they can do. It's very unlikely they will take it to a magistrate's court when you're paying something regularly every time the bills come through. So that's and stop all those direct debits. And finally, cash, the 15-minute city agenda can't truly work unless we go cashless. And that is because ultimately they're going to need the whole digital system to be linked up with a digital ID, which is also being explored, as you know. They want to introduce this in this country. A digital ID, programmable money, which is what a cashless society is, where your money is controlled and programmed about what you can do, with your movements, where you can travel. That's how they're going to ultimately control you. So the biggest thing, if you're not an activist, it doesn't matter, the biggest thing you can do is keep using cash. If you're an everyday person here, that is taking back power. So keep using cash. Take the leaflets on what to do on 15-minute cities. There are groups here, I believe. You've got British Lions for Freedom, Jonathan Till, Piers is doing loads of this in London. There are groups, there's links on the leaflet, that are taking actions on 15-minute cities, cashless society. Please come and speak to them and speak to myself. Please fight this. We could win. Honestly, we could win. I'm convinced, I'm not just saying this to be positive, everything they're doing has
like to say going forward. Thank you.
Okay, so tell me when you're ready. Ready? Okay. So we're in Huddersfield today, as you can see. We're just starting to break up a little bit now. Hard to say how many were here. We had a bigger crowd than we expected.
A couple of
we
hundred.
Were an hour late.
I think there was a couple of hundred.
We're supposed to be here for 12, but we got here just after 1 o'clock because of delays. But we're here to talk to people about two issues: cashless society, the threat of losing cash and all our freedoms that go with that, and 15-minute neighbourhoods and cities, all the controls that are coming in to stop people travelling, and to make people see that this is a threat to their basic freedoms, that they're not going to be able to do anything, they're not going to be able to work, they're not going to be able to access education, travel, get to hospital unless you're very wealthy. You're not going to be able to do it. And I have to say, it's been a little bit harder on the high street because I think they haven't really heard of 15-minute city, so that message is quite hard, and we've got to break through on that. We've got to keep going.
Absolutely.
Because it was like the cash message. When we started that about a year ago, not a lot of people were aware, but now, a year later, I think people are aware. So we're bringing these two, sorry, just because the sun's away, we're bringing these two issues together with the cash, and it's all right.
There you go.
We're bringing these two issues together with cash, cashless, and 15-minute cities, because they are, as I said earlier, they are linked. You can't have 15-minute neighbourhoods or controls about travel without the digital infrastructure and digital money that will control people. Because if we've got cash, we can still do things that we want to, can't we? So yeah, it's been an interesting day. We've obviously had other people here. Jonathan Tilt, who does the Vote Freedom, used to do the Freedom Alone, lives locally. Piers has come up all the way from the south with me today because he really wanted to come up, because obviously Piers in London has been campaigning about ULEZ for a long time. And obviously, as he is an astrophysicist, he has huge concerns about what he feels, and I agree with him, is this lie of too much CO2 that's underpinning all of this, that we've got a problem with carbon, and that we need to do these things to reduce carbon. That's what we're talking about, the net carbon, net zero carbon, and the absolute zero. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I was just saying to this gentleman here, you know, wherever you go, you get a different reception. And yeah, I always find that, you know, it's a compliment to people up north. I always find people up north much more approachable and friendly. So,
that's always a positive.
4 hours on the motorway, it's worth coming up for. So,
anything about your recent court case?
Yeah, I had on Wednesday I had a judicial review, and I had a High Court appeal, and the High Court appeal was for a conviction I received for filming a hospital during lockdown. I filmed the corridors to show that it was empty, because it was more or less empty. And the reason I did that, as I'm sure you're aware, is because I wanted people to see that there was not legitimate, there was not just reasons to take people's rights away at that time to access healthcare, because of a virus that wasn't that big a risk to people at all. And that's what I was trying to show, because I thought it was a travesty of justice. It was an attack on our rights, that we couldn't go to hospital in that way. And I think we're seeing the outcome of that now with the death rate.
Yes.
So I was appealing that, and I also had a judicial review on the right to protest during lockdown, because I was arrested several times for being at peaceful protests, what I believe are lawful protests, and I got a conviction for going to one of those. I've got a criminal record now, and I was determined, as soon as I was convicted, I was determined to try and take it further. I thought I'm going to use this, and luckily, because people helped me, the crowd, they've been amazing. I've been very lucky, very good barrister, and a solicitor who's done those with pro bono. They've been fantastic, and we finally, after a year, got it into the High Court, had the trial on Wednesday. It was a whole day hearing, and sadly I don't have any news for you, because apparently, and I didn't know this at the time, they generally go away for 3 or 4 weeks, and then make their decision. You can think what you like about that. I'll be honest with you, I'm sceptical about what happens in those 3 or 4 weeks, but the hearing went really well.
Good.
We had 2 judges. One judge I felt was very much on our side. He's known as the Lord Sumption of the Court of Appeal.
Okay, yeah.
So he's anti-lockdown.
Right, okay.
And he was kind of nodding and agreeing with all our arguments and our case law and everything, and I'd like to think that you know, he's going to go with it. The other one was a bit more conservative. I say a bit more kind of reserved about it all. And hard to say. Again, he's got a good track record. He's stood up for free speech. There was a case, I think about a year ago, of a lady who called a transgender man, her quote, she said he was a pig in a wig. Don't you remember that case? And she was arrested, she was charged and convicted, and she took it to the High Court, and her appeal was upheld. It was free speech. She can say that if she wants to.
Absolutely.
Whatever you think of that, it's her right to say it.
Absolutely.
So, on that basis, two good judges, would say. But it's as good a chance as we're going to get. I think it's 3 years later, isn't it? We've got all this water under the bridge, we've learned a lot, and I've always maintained that we had the right to protest throughout that, as other protests were allowed to go.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, BLM and all
I'm
those.
hopeful.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll have good news for you in a few weeks' time.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you ever so much, Debbie. Thank you.
Okay.
Keep up the support. Keep up the great work. Thank you.